You're having a beautiful day, and I hope you enjoyed this live stream. We're going to be asking the question today: Ukraine versus Russia. Are we winning the war? Is America winning the war? Is Russia winning the war? Ukraine? I'll give my perspective and let me know what you think if you disagree or agree. Just some headlines I'm going to run through. Saudi Arabia declined calls with Joe Biden. Very pathetic, very weak for us. Breaking, this happened today. A mainstream report said that Saudi Arabia was considering settling oil sales to China, not in the US dollars, but in Chinese yuan, which would be huge for the US petrodollar. Let's see if they follow through on that. Also, Ukraine Zelensky asked European leaders to do more, but admits NATO membership is not in the cards. That's pretty big. Facebook is reversing its ban on posts praising far-right Ukraine's Azov battalion, a report says. So once considered an extremist group by Facebook, because of their insistence that you support Ukraine in this war against Russia, they are allowing you to praise them in the context of defending Ukraine. We'll talk about that. Was Donald Trump right? He warned NATO and he warned Germany about what's going on right now. We're going to listen to that clip. And as much as they're telling you they're fighting Russia because they are obviously with sanctions, my question is, are we being hurt worse than Russia? Because you still have parts of Europe funding the Russian president through gas sales, and the reason is because Germany, like Trump had said, is totally dependent on it, and they could possibly be in mass poverty according to The Guardian if they broke off it. So lots of interesting stuff. You know, all these celebrities, everybody, the same people that told you 6 days to slow the spread or 15 days to slow the spread, they're all posting Ukraine, 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 we're winning the war, we're winning the war. So a lot of people think that we are, but my question here is, are we? I believe, before we start this live stream, that the people are losing the war. The people of Russia, the people of Ukraine, the people involved with the NATO and the UN. Governments around the world will not face the brunt of this like the people will in America. So that's what I think as a slight intro. I'm going to get way more into it now. I'm going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks. What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys so much for being here. If you notice, I'm wearing yellow. This is not to support Ukraine, although I do love my Ukrainian brothers and sisters. This is actually to support the Golden Girls. You know, I'm not trying to be a peacenik or anything, but if the Golden Girls were in trouble in Ukraine, I'd be there in a second fighting beside whoever I had to. But since the Golden Girls, you know, rest in peace, Betty White, God bless you. Since they seem to be doing all right, you know, in heaven, most of them, if not all of them. Now I don't even know if they're dead or not. I already regret talking about it. But, you know, I just wanted to say shout out the Golden Girls. This is the most important news show on the planet. We talk about important issues like our favorite sitcom characters. But jokes aside, I do want to talk about, I had a question because, of course, the media, unfortunately, I wish I could trust them and everything they say, but they have lied to us for 5, 6 years straight, if not longer than that. So I'm wondering, like, are we really winning the war? Who's winning the war? Is Russia doing better? Is Ukraine doing better? Obviously, we're losing out. Gas prices, inflation. The Russian people are losing out. The Ukrainian people are losing out. So I noticed that trend. I'm like, it seems like the people are losing. So which country is really winning? And the first thing I thought of, and I have a few things to talk about, and I have a huge presentation as always now. First of all, Russia, we know, has huge weapons, right? They have all sorts of weapons, you know, that could probably destroy half the world, if not the entire world, and they're not really using them. So, you know, we're doing all these sanctions. We're getting rid of our Visa, MasterCard, and now a Chinese company's picking that up. I don't understand how that helps America. But here's one that I've seen in the news recently, so I'm just going to play the clip. You can see here that a boycott of Russian gas and oil could cause mass poverty in Germany, says The Guardian. The Boston Globe says energy policies in Germany and other European countries have been funding Russian president. So you have to understand that, you know, I'm just going to read the article. Germany has warned that an immediate boycott of Russian gas and oil supplies could hurt its own population more than Vladimir Putin, bringing mass unemployment and poverty. If we flip a switch immediately, there will be supply shortages, even stops, says Germany. Few other Western economies are as dependent on Russian energy as Germany is. 55% of its natural gas, 52% of its coal, and 34% of its mineral oil used in a country that comes from Russia, for which it pays hundreds of millions of euros daily financing support of the war machine currently devastating Ukraine. So these are my questions, folks. It's like, once again, I feel like we're just doing a half-assed approach. It's like we have all these people doing all this stuff for Ukraine. We're sanctioning Ukraine. We're pulling out. We're not taking gas. How is this going to work? If we don't take gas from Ukraine, our gas prices skyrocket. We run around trying to talk to Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Iran. I mean, we're talking to everybody trying to get oil. And then you have countries like Germany that are part of NATO, fighting, oh, I'm fighting Russia so hard in Germany that we're just buying gas from Germany. So you get what I'm saying? It's like either you cut them off completely or you don't. Isn't this starting to feel a little bit weird to people? Today, Zelensky said that Ukraine is not going to be a part of NATO. That's out of the cards. Biden has said he doesn't want a no-fly zone. He disagrees with the war hawks in both parties, which I actually thank Joe Biden because I don't agree with him on much, but I do agree that we shouldn't have a no-fly zone. I think it would start a serious war. And then we're rejecting Poland jets as well. If you Google, Poland wants to give us jets, we're rejecting them. So as tough as they're talking on social media, I'm just going to show you some of like the propaganda. And once again, I don't think you can't support Ukraine. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but stuff like this is airing all over social media. It's got people like, oh yeah, we're really fighting Ukraine. Like, how is Madonna and The Simpsons posting about Ukraine, Elton John, J-Lo, Stephen King, like Paul McCartney, you got it, oh, David Beckham. How is this going to stop Russia when you literally have Germany buying Russian gas and oil and coal with hundreds of millions of dollars? You get what I'm saying? It's like, it just feels like a show at this point to me. It's like, yeah, we're fighting Ukraine, but Germany, one of our greatest allies, is giving them hundreds of millions of dollars to fund the war. They're not using their biggest weapons. We refuse to really help Ukraine. It's like we're crowdfunding this war. It's like, yeah, if you want to go fight in Ukraine, go ahead. But, United States is not going to send our troops. And I don't want to send our troops. I'm just saying, it's like, what type of BS war are we fighting where we're just half in, half out? We're doing some sanctions. Some countries can't afford sanctions. We're not sending our greatest, but we are somehow still going to fight them. It started to make me feel like, above all the propaganda, that the American people are losing the war, the Ukrainian people are losing the war, the Russian people are losing the war, the German people are losing the war. And I feel like America is not doing nearly as good as they're saying, because if they were really as confident as they seem like they were, they'd either be all in or all out. But this half in, half out approach is the same nonsense we always do, which is going to screw us over, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. I just want to play a clip real quick of Donald Trump warning Germany years ago. Fact check. Oh, it's perfect. Joe Biden's amazing. Fact check. You can't do better than Joe Biden. He's the best. Fact check says that Joe Biden's the best we can do, and it's not his fault. It's like, what about leaders like Trump? Once again, I was critical of his, Operation Warp Speed shilling, but you got to give credit where it's due. I mean, he's leagues ahead of all these other politicians when it comes to common sense and being honest. That's why people support him. Donald Trump could be a vegetable, in a nursing home somewhere, and he'd still be better than 99% of Washington because they're so garbaggio. And this guy, said what now people are dealing with years ago. Let's take a listen.
Reliance on a single foreign supplier can leave a nation vulnerable to extortion and intimidation. That is why we congratulate European states such as Poland for leading the construction of a Baltic pipeline so that nations are not dependent on Russia to meet their energy needs. Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers.
Look, they're laughing at him in Germany. They're like, huh, this idiot Trump, oh my gosh, he wants to get us to be dependent on our own oil. You got rid of nuclear energy. Now, they used to have more nuclear energy. Even Elon Musk is like, why would you get rid of nuclear? Even if these people, it's like either you got to figure it out in your head. Either people like, the Germans, Biden administration, either they're like totally incompetent, which is a possibility, or they're just self-sabotaging our countries. I mean, I don't know any other way to do it. You have the leader in clean energy, lithium mines, etc., Elon Musk, saying, yeah, you should still do nuclear and oil for now. And you have Germany being like, nah. And then literally exactly what Trump said happened. And they're just like, have their tails between their legs, and we're all fighting this half-ass war. It's like, how many Lady Gaga posts are going to take down the Kremlin? How many David Beckham, virtue signals do we need? It doesn't matter if Germany is giving $100 million, hundreds of millions of dollars to Russia for oil. What's the point of the sanctions? Oh, we're just going to sanction some things. Yeah, now we have, a Chinese company taking over what Visa and MasterCard. Oh yeah, if you Googled, the ruble's starting to go back up. The dollar is actually doing well. I checked it against the yen, the ruble, etc. The dollar's doing fine, so I'm grateful because that might, hopefully it doesn't change, but for the sake of our existence. But I want to show you this stuff with the Saudi, and then we'll listen to another Trump clip. Check this out. Saudi Arabia apparently last week refused to meet with Joe Biden. Imagine that. They won't even meet with him. They're like, nah, we don't even want to have a phone call. Like, we don't like you or respect you enough. I don't know why they didn't do it, but I don't blame them. I mean, imagine talking to two-faced Biden. What's the point? How could you trust what he's even saying? It's like even our own allies of Saudi Arabia don't want to talk to Biden. Let's move on. I got some other stuff. You got Jeremy Corbyn, the Marxist guy, and socialist, whatever, in England crying because Boris Johnson's going over to Saudi Arabia to try to strike an oil deal. But once again, they're beheading a bunch of men or something, so he's mad. And then you had this report today, I believe it was Wall Street Journal. They said breaking, he said Saudi Arabia is considering settling oil sales to China, not in US dollars, but the Chinese yuan. The decline of the U.S. hegemony is in full swing. This is exactly what we meant by the West shooting itself in the foot. This is just the beginning. The U.S. sanctioned Russian oil imports. Prices are going wild, and the West needs a replacement. Biden is going crawling back to Maduro. Meanwhile, the Saudis and the Emirates won't even pick up the phone. Have you ever heard such a thing? You have now. So it's like, this is why it's so important to have somewhat of a free press and free social media. All the Biden administration does is shoot us in the foot. They embarrass us on a world scale. Nobody trusts and respects them. You have countries who are trusting China and Russia more than America because they don't, it's like America is such a two-faced country. I love America. I am American, but it's like, I don't like Xi or Putin, but you would think that some of these countries are probably turning to them. Like, at least even if we get a crazy answer, it's like Trump, Trump's crazy. He's so bad. But like when Trump talks, most of the time he's telling the truth and being honest, even if you don't agree with it. That was the best part. It's like, yo, I'm going to bomb you. You know what I'm saying? Like he would say crazy stuff like that. And it's like, whoa, but like it's better than like this passive aggressive. Trump is the type that would usually, I'm not saying, stab you in the front. People like the Biden and the liberals of the world, they stab you in the back. During the Obama administration with Hillary, you had them acting like, oh, I'm the first black president of America. I'm a hero. I'm a Martin Luther King character. And then they're going all over the world, starting wars in Syria, starting wars in Libya, killing an African leader. So who would you rather, the Donald Trump type or the Putin type? Not saying they're perfect because they're both different shades of not perfect, but it's like countries don't respect America anymore. We have the most wicked, insane press, and then we run around the world being like, oh, why doesn't people believe us? Because you don't even try to gain our trust. All you do is try to censor the competition, and we're not trying to hurt America. We're not trying to help Russia. You're shooting us in the foot. You're losing service for American companies in Russia. You're losing it to China. You're losing... in my opinion, I don't think it's going well at all. I mean, if this was going well, we'd be tough guys. Oh, we're going to do a no-fly. We don't want the smoke with Russia. We don't want a no-fly zone. We don't want to give Poland. We don't want to take Poland's things. We're crowdfunding this military. Zelensky's a total puppet actor producer who like his whole life is literally a movie. And then they got like David Beckham making videos and people are like, oh yeah, we're really sticking it to the Kremlin. Yeah, your prices are going up. German prices are going up. Everybody around the world, we're seeing inflation and gas prices rise, and then our allies are literally still buying hundreds of millions of dollars of gas to Russia, which is going right to his bank account. He's not feeling the brunt that much. Our government's not feeling the brunt that much. They'll give themselves a raise. It's us. Once again, just like COVID, the winner is not us. The loser is the people all over the world. The winner is, I don't know, the corrupt governments who somehow gain an advantage off this. I don't really know who wins this war, but not us. I want to play another clip with Trump because I thought this one was pretty good too. It was another meeting he had where he was talking about all this stuff years ago.
Well, I have to say, I think it's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries, and then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas. Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened. And I think we have to talk to Germany about it.
2016 to 2019, Trump was a phenomenon. He was killing it on Twitter. He was telling the UN and the EU the truth. He was like, why are you doing this? You know, this is going to bite you in the ass. And he was completely right about that. Why would you depend on Russia so much? Here's the thing. If you're going to get along with Russia, then I guess you could depend on them. But knowing that there was a brewing conflict, especially we're going to get into the Ukrainian revolution in which NATO and the West was really, picking sides, let's just say. What are you doing? This is, and then you have Psaki and Biden trying to fact check. We are doing the best. It's like, dude, they're no better than these communist, authoritarian, fascist governments around the world that don't allow people to disagree with them. What do you think they do in a fascist or authoritarian country that's super corrupt? Do you think they just let people speak, or do you think they fact check? Fact check, we tell the truth. Fact check, there's no such thing as misinformation. Fact check, they push misinformation. They cover up information. They lie all the time. You think it's not possible to do better than Joe Biden with oil and gas prices? I'm sorry. They stopped drilling in America. So now we're more dependent on foreign countries. We have oil here. They're running around to our enemies that they claimed to hate 2 years ago. Now they're begging them for oil. They're not taking our phone calls. You have our greatest allies, depending on who they're fighting with, still taking oil and gas from Russia because they can't afford not to. So you could say what you want. I see some people crying in the comments. I mean, most people agree with me, but it's like, Russia could probably damage Germany more than Germany could damage Russia. They just said in The Guardian that the German people could likely be starved into poverty if Russia decided to cut off their oil. So this idea that we have so much leverage over Russia, we have some, we're pulling out all the stops, we're going after their oligarchs and billionaires and stuff, but really we're showing signs of weakness because, at any second, Russia could be like, yeah, you know what, we don't want that hundreds of millions of dollars. We'll sell our gas to China or someone else and we'll make up that money. And then what is Germany going to do? Hopefully they can find more gas and stuff, but Trump tried to warn people. It's important to know that this idea that the Biden administration couldn't have done anything better. I mean, Trump did everything better when it came to energy. He had more here, which would help us greatly in this conflict. He tried to wean them off, which would have helped us greatly in this conflict. He would have never got rid of nuclear energy in Germany and California, which is absolutely idiotic. It's like in every way, shape, and form. And people know here, when I compliment Trump now, say what you want about me, it means a lot more than a lot of people complimenting Trump because I've been criticizing him for a year. People don't come to me like one of these like right side broadcasting networks, and I'm not making fun of them, but I'm just saying right side broadcasting networks, all they do is go to Trump rallies and just, ride Trump's coattails. They would never criticize him or do fair journalism. And I'm just saying now when I compliment Trump, I think it means a lot more than if I was just lying in behalf of him and just, covering up all his mistakes, which I've never done. But it's like when it comes to foreign policy, foreign war, foreign energy, like literally everything he's better than Joe Biden at. And the fact that the Biden administration is not only incompetent, but they're trying to get the media and their social media cronies to make it as if like, oh, there's nothing he could do about gas and oil. It's like, of course there is. And to be quite frank, we're going to get into it later. The whole narrative around Russia and Ukraine that they're telling is really, really dishonest. I'm going to get into this story right now, but Solon has recently admitted that our allies in Ukraine are neo-Nazis. That's not me saying that. I'm not calling them neo-Nazis, okay? Salon is, which is a left-wing publication. And, these people, that the Azov battalion in Ukraine that a bunch of liberals are now supporting as if they couldn't get brainwashed any further, Facebook is admitting now changing their hate speech policy, because I'm going to show you the proof in a second, in 30 seconds. Facebook was putting them in a category of the Ku Klux Klan, white nationalists, in the most egregious hate speech policy. And now Facebook is changing their rules so liberals in America can support extremist right-wing neo-Nazis, according to some people, because that's how desperate and pathetic the Western liberals are to support this regime, which is, led by an actor-producer who apparently is aligning himself with neo-Nazis. And what this is equivalent to would be like in America if Facebook changed a hate speech policy that said, you can support the Ku Klux Klan defending the border, or you could support the Ku Klux Klan in the military, but you're not allowed to support the Ku Klux Klan's ideology. You're not allowed to support their ideology, but you can support their defending their country. Do you think they'd ever do that in this country? Allow people to do that on Facebook? Of course not. But they're allowing it in Ukraine because liberals are beyond brainwashed. They're beyond nefarious. And I'm not one of these conservatives. Mitt Romney, total scum. Adam Kinzinger, total scum. Ted Cruz is a fraud. Heck, Trump even sold, big pharma shots for a year and a half. But there is no equivalence to the diabolical hypocrisy of the liberal. I mean, they are literally supporting people that are far more extreme than the people they hate in America, and Facebook and Salon are admitting it. You don't believe me? You want proof? Here's mainstream articles from left-wing publications. Let's hop into it. Where is it? Hopefully I got it. Please tell me I didn't forget it. Darn it. Let me see. I might have to upload it. Wow. I think it's here somewhere, but luckily I could upload it live. Let me see. Bang. I must have forgot. All right. It's uploading as we speak, so I'll have to wait a few seconds. But I'm uploading this video, and then I'm going to play it of Salon. And I don't know if it's the Hill or not, but we're about to find out. All right. Got it. Ready, folks? So this is Salon. It says, are there really neo-Nazis fighting for Ukraine? Well, yes, but it's a long story. No, Putin didn't wage a war to denazify Ukraine, but the nation's shadowy far-right militias are big trouble. So you have a left-wing publication admitting that there are neo-Nazis fighting for Ukraine. I did not say this. This is left-wing Salon publication. Let's look at who these people are, because Facebook is now changing their policy so a bunch of psycho liberals can support a far-right group in Ukraine. This is Business Insider. Facebook is reversing its ban on posts praising Ukraine's far-right Azov battalion, report says. What? Why would they reverse a ban on praising far-right Azov battalion? I mean, what? Let's read about it, folks. Facebook is backtracking on its ban, on the ban it placed on users praising Azov Battalion, a far-right paramilitary force within Ukrainian National Guard. Praise for the group, which is the armed wing of the country's white nationalist Azov movement, was banned in 2019 under Facebook's dangerous individuals and organizations policy. The platform had classified the group alongside others such as the Ku Klux Klan and the Islamic State. A 2016 report found that they had raped and tortured civilians during the 2014 Russian invasion of Ukraine. So they've raped and tortured civilians. They're far right, yet you can now praise them? What? We'll just read it real quick. It said you're not allowed to say, well done, Azov, for protecting Ukraine and its white national heritage. That's still not allowed. But what you are is, for the time being, they're making a narrow exception for the praise of the Azov regiment strictly in the context of defending Ukraine, or in their role as a part of the Ukrainian National Guard, a spokesperson said from Meta. But we are continuing to ban all hate speech, all hate symbolism, all praise of violence, generic praise, support, or misrepresentation of the Azov regiment. Do you get what they're doing, folks? Did I explain it properly? I hope so. It's literally equivalent to, in America, you being able to praise the KKK for defending America. They're doing that in Ukraine. They're like, you can't defend their ideology. You can't defend what they think. You can't post their symbols. I had to cut off the article, because if I posted the article, they have hate speech symbols that would have got me banned off Facebook. So I had to cut it down. I can't even post a picture of these people because they're apparently too extreme for me to even post a picture of. But a bunch of liberals and a bunch of brainwashed conservatives that watch all the other people on Fox News besides Tucker. Tucker's good. Mark Levin's a total fraud. Trish Reagan is a psychopath. Mark Levin is a fraud. They're all trying to lie to you. They're all trying to brainwash you into a war, just like they did during Iraq. But literally, it would be like, it's mind-blowing to think that they have literally convinced a bunch of left-wing people to support what Salon considers a neo-Nazi group in Ukraine and what Facebook considers equivalent to the Islamic State and the Ku Klux Klan. You're allowed to not support their ideology, but you're allowed to support them defending their country. So I can't believe people can't figure this stuff out. Let's look at the revolution real quick, and then let's listen to Lindsey Graham and John McCain. Because one person said to me on Instagram, they said, Anomaly, I disagree with what you're saying. I don't care. It's not a big deal. But she's like, what would you do if, Mexico invaded America? Wouldn't you support your country? And I'm like, absolutely. I've never gone back on this. I think Ukrainians should be able to defend their country, their culture, their heritage, their language. I have no problem with Ukraine defending their country. I've never said otherwise. I mean, this is not my conflict. You got Yemen's getting bombed, Syria's getting bombed by Israel, Palestine and Israel are fighting each other. I'm not the world police. I don't go tell people whose land it is. I mean, I think you have the right to defend your land. And if, I've never said otherwise, but the point I was trying to make to this lady, like, who told you that this would be equivalent to Mexico invading us? That's not what's going on. It would be like if China and Russia started giving weapons. First of all, if China and Russia, were involved either directly or indirectly in some sort of revolution/coup in Mexico to install a puppet leader, which was going to break every treaty that the United States signed with Mexico, and then that Mexican leader would start accepting weapons from China and Russia, and then you'd have Chinese and Russian officials like Lindsey Graham and John McCain flying to Mexico and saying, we need to go on the offensive. Do you think America would let Mexico do that? So if you want to do an example, I'm not saying Putin and Russia have no blood on their hands and they're perfect, but who told you that this is just equivalent to that? I mean, the offensive moves and the breaking of the original treaties, I mean, mainstream articles have proven that NATO has done this. And, they kind of, I'm not saying they asked for it, but they push. And then he full swung the other way, and now they're throwing their hands up and acting like they have no idea. Let me read this real quick. This is the revolution of dignity, folks. They say that, January 6th was like 9/11. This was an actual insurrection that was way deadlier. 103 protesters and 13 police killed. Some reports say 82 people killed. Others say it was over 100 people murdered or killed in this revolution. But it gets the branding of revolution of dignity.
Your fight is our fight. 2017 will be the year of offense.
Yeah, 2017 will be the year of offense.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Already trying to wage a war. Lindsey Graham loves war.
Enough of a Russian aggression. It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю в те, що ви виграєте, переможете. Я переконаний, що ви переможете. Ми вам допоможемо всіма можливими засобами.
Те саме діти з ворожим ВВП і розбалювання.
З Новим роком, дорогі!
Yeah, I just wanted to play that clip because it's like, first of all, they had this massive insurrection/revolution in 2014. If you look at Zelensky, I've said this a few times, but I just want to keep repeating this because I don't think people realize how wild this is. He was an actor, producer, and you could look all this stuff up. He created a production company in the early 2000s called Kvartal 95. This is President of Ukraine, Zelensky. So he's got this production company, right? But it's not just a production company, because it would be like if a production company in America also created a political party. Do you know any production companies that then create a political party and get a candidate in office? You get what I'm saying? Imagine if somebody created a political party that started as a television production series, and that political party that they created literally became more popular than the Republicans and Democrats. Like, people don't realize how mind-blowing the story of Zelensky is. Creates this production company, Kvartal 95. They create this show called Servant of the People, okay, where he's the star. He's acting like an average high school teacher turned president. And he pretty much programs people in Ukraine to think that he's this everyday average guy that's going to fight corruption. That's what this television show is about. Kvartal 95 produced that show. They aired it on television. Just so happened to be the network that Kolomoisky owned, who's a Ukrainian oligarch who is now banned in the United States and got in trouble for his private bank. You know, I guess he got accused of defrauding them, but he's fighting in a court. So they aired this show for a couple years, and now the whole country, Ukraine, loves this guy, this actor, comedian, producer, who has portrayed himself as this average president of the United States. I'm sorry, average president of Ukraine. I always say that by mistake, Ukraine. Then he runs for office, and he creates a party called Servant of the People. He's part of the Servant of the People party. Who created his political party? His production studio. His literal production studio, Kvartal 95, created his political party, and then he won for office after this revolution where 100 people died, and the West says it was a revolution of dignity. You know, the clown show on January 6th, which was a total clown show. I mean, I wouldn't call it like a full-blown revolution. I would say it's mostly just a clowny, you know, miscalculation. But, you know, this was like a full-blown, over 100 people died, and Western press is like, yeah, that's revolution of dignity. What does that tell you? That tells you that the West and the United States and our allies, they got what they wanted out of that revolution. When that revolution happened in Ukraine, Russia was pissed and America was happy. What does that tell you? Probably America had connections somehow to the leader who took in place. And now you have a country that was never supposed to be in NATO because it's way too close to Russia. We've gone with the Baltic countries and all these other countries that we said we'd never, you know, NATO would never get this close to Russia. They did. They kept moving. They kept moving. They kept moving. And then right next to Russia, there's this miraculous revolution with this miraculous actor production studio, you know, puppet guy who just pops into office. And now all of a sudden he's getting weapons from the West. I mean, I'm not saying that they're perfect. I'm just saying, like, when the media just tells you, oh, this just spontaneously, no, just like with all this stuff, they help cause it to happen. You know, they push further, and then when things push too far, what do? Nothing. No-fly zone, no jets. You know, they're not really actually fighting Russia. They're telling you to just go fly to Russia. They're like, or Ukraine. They're like, yeah, we don't really want to fight them that hard. I mean, yeah, we're fighting them, but like, Germany's going to still buy gas from them. We're not like really going to send our military, but you can go fly over if you're like a Redditor and you want to help Ukraine. This is like a half-assed BS war because we don't really want to help Ukraine that much. We probably milked all we could get out of that puppet. And now I think America's just like, you know, they don't want the smoke with Russia. And I don't blame them because who the heck wants to fight a war? I don't want to fight China, Russia. I love America, but what the hell are we doing? I want to show you guys something because once again, I have to show this. I did not say this, but Salon is admitting, and even Facebook's admitting, that the Azov Battalion is an extremist organization that now liberals are allowed to support indirectly, because now once again America is funding extremist organizations overseas, or rather working with them and supporting them. And this is what we do in every foreign country. I'm not trying to act like I'm holier than thou. I don't know that I would know what to do in this complex war. I understand being a peaceful person doesn't always translate. You know, you have to hold down the fortress. We do need a military. So I'm not trying to act like I'm better. You know, I understand it's a complex situation. I'm not going to front and say, oh, it's easy, just do this. It's like, nah, it's not easy. But you know, this is what we've done time and time again in Syria, in Libya, in Afghanistan. We fund extremist groups, okay? We're not looking for like the peaceful liberals. We're looking for the crazies. You know, in Ukraine, it's the far right extremists. In other countries, it's far left extremists. In other countries, it's, you know, Muslim extremists who are not the average Muslim, but they're ready to be manipulated by the West, and Wahhabism it's called, to fight wars for the West, which they shouldn't do. But in general, This happens so often, and this idea that we're not allowed to question it now doesn't go with history. And I'm going to play a clip of Hillary Clinton. Believe it or not, she actually told the truth about how we funded extremists in the Middle East, and those extremists eventually turned against us. This always happens. So now that we're funding extremists in Ukraine and everyone's waving a Ukraine flag, my question is, how long does it take for this to bubble over, and then we've created a new crisis? I don't know if it's going to happen, but let's listen to a rare clip of Hillary Clinton telling the truth.
We also have a history of kind of moving in and out of Pakistan. I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago. And we did it because we were locked in this struggle with the Soviet Union. They invaded Afghanistan, and we did not want to see them control Central Asia, and we went to work. And it was President Reagan, in partnership with the Congress, led by Democrats, who said, you know what, sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's deal with the ISI and the Pakistani military, and let's go recruit these mujahideen. And let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam, so that we can go beat the Soviet Union. And guess what? They retreated. They lost billions of dollars, and it led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So there's a very strong argument, which is, it wasn't a bad investment to end the Soviet Union, but let's be careful what we sow, because we will harvest. So we then left Pakistan. We said, okay, fine, you deal with the stingers that we've left all over your country. You deal with the mines that are along the border. And by the way, we don't want to have anything to do with you. In fact, we're sanctioning you. So we stopped dealing with the Pakistani military and with ISI, and we now are making up for a lot of lost time.
Say what you want. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with a lot that Hillary says, but she told the truth there. You know, I like that clip because it's a rare time she told the truth, where she's like, yeah, we funded extremists in the Middle East, because people don't even realize this through the Iraq War and the 9/11 situation, which was horrific, that a lot of these problems in the Middle East, I'm not saying that nothing would have occurred, but a lot of times we're the ones funding the extremists. I find it very odd when Donald Trump got into office, he stopped funding rebel groups, and then all of a sudden ISIS disappears. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think you could find mainstream articles. In fact, I know you could find mainstream articles that say at one point in the Middle East, we had one extremist group fighting another extremist group, and we were funding both sides. It said the CIA was funding one side and the Pentagon was funding the other side, and then they were fighting each other. We are so sloppy with our money and your taxpayer dollars. We constantly fund these extremist groups, and eventually these extremist groups turn against us because they're extremely extreme. So this idea, real quick, that we are not allowed to identify that there are literal extremist groups in Ukraine that the media is now gushing over. I mean, it's completely insane. And once again, show this to your liberal friends if you can. See what they say. This is not a right-wing article. This is Salon. And if you needed any more proof that they are an extremist group, whether you call them neo-Nazis or not, or whatever you want to call them in Ukraine, Facebook is literally changing their rules, because they used to ban all posts praising Ukraine's far-right Azov battalion. But now you're literally allowed to praise them as long as you praise them in the context of defending Ukraine. It would literally be equivalent of Facebook changing their policies to allow you to support the KKK in their idea of defending America or defending the borders of Ukraine rather than their ideology. So that's what Facebook's saying. You're not allowed to defend their ideology, but you're allowed to defend what they're doing for Ukraine. You know, that's just showing who these people really are, folks. When it comes to liberals and big tech, I'm not trying to be rude, but they believe nothing that they talk about racially, ideologically, nothing. It's all a show. It's all like, just tell me what to think. I'll replace my mask with the Ukraine flag. I'll replace the Ukraine flag with the, Pakistani flag. Just tell me what to think and I'll think it. I mean, tell me what to think. You think these people are educated on the war? You think these people really know what's going on in Ukraine? You think they even knew where it was on a map a year ago? You think all these celebrities just naturally did this? Oh man, we're really educated on geopolitics, We know so much about what's going on, and we want to really do our part. How in the world is this virtue signaling going to matter when our greatest allies of Germany are still getting hundreds of millions of dollars or giving hundreds of millions of dollars to them through sales of, gas, oil, I think even coal. And to wrap it up, because I don't want to repeat myself, here's my final thoughts on the situation. I do not support Russia, Ukraine, NATO. I understand there are allies, but I think self-awareness and self-accountability is important. That's why in America we have votes, right? We don't say we just have to support our country and it's anti-American. No. If you want to get rid of Obama, you support for Trump. If you want to get rid of Trump, you vote for Biden. I mean, that was the most garbage mistake people have ever made. But in general, we're not supposed to just blindly follow our government. That's why we have elections in America. So this idea that we're not allowed to have self-awareness and self-accountability in this country, it's the complete antithesis of our fake democracy republic, which is now no longer almost existence. But, it still has its strong points in general. And you're not supposed to just blindly follow what they do overseas, what they do in this country. You're supposed to be allowed to vote and change it for the better. So on one hand, I don't support Russia. I don't support Ukraine. I think NATO and the UN and the EU, they've gone from we're defending America against the Soviet Union and Russia, and they've turned into this, especially the United Nations, this micromanaging organization where they're now turning us into Germany and Europe. Listen, I like Germany. I like England. I like Europe. But this idea that America has to be Europe because we have the EU and NATO and the United Nations, that's not what it was made for. But now in this country, I'm not going to talk about how much because I'm not really even sure, but I've been penalized to the tune of more money than you want to imagine and more reach than you want to imagine. At the height of my career, when I'm getting 8,000 people on a live stream, they're cutting all of my resources and cutting my page. Why? Because I disagreed with the World Health Organization. And when push came to shove, I was right and the World Health Organization was wrong. I was accurate. I was fair. As I always do with my reporting, I show both sides a lot of times and I say, this is what they're saying. This is what they're saying. Did you know the CDC and the World Health Organization disagreed, at least before? I don't know if they still do, probably. They disagreed on childhood vaccinations for a certain age. How the hell am I supposed to get penalized for disagreeing with the World Health Organization when Rochelle Walensky's psychotic, you know what? And them, they don't even agree. How the hell can I agree with the CDC and the World Health Organization when they disagree? So in my own country, I'm not being penalized by Putin. I'm not being penalized by Russia. I'm not being penalized by Ukraine even. I'm being penalized by the World Health Organizations and Facebook and YouTube and these psychotic corporations that have become communist authoritarian scum, and they've sold our country out and sold our morals out and sold our Constitution out for this idea that they're going to play God and they're going to push this agenda that's the the opposite of America. I mean, this is what I've dealt with for a few years. So if you think I'm running headfirst into this new propaganda, you have another thing coming. I don't have to blindly support anyone. I don't, obviously. And my final thoughts are, I think Biden is garbage. As much as I criticized Trump over the last couple of years, he would have been better on every level of this conflict. In fact, this was his strong suit, not running around selling Moderna vaccines for Fauci. That embarrassed him more than anything ever has. He was good at foreign policy. He was good at business. He was good at energy. And Biden is worse in every category. Closing down pipelines in America was an absolute mistake. Closing down nuclear plants around Europe and in America is a massive mistake. Trying to push towards wind and solar, like Trump says, is a mistake. It can naturally shift, but the way they're doing it is even pissing off Elon Musk, who actually does work. And I'm not saying Elon's perfect, but Elon produces things. You could go buy a Tesla. He really makes stuff. You don't have to like him, but it's real. It drives. It auto drives. It's a pretty cool car. I don't want one, but I'm just saying it is pretty cool. He does stuff. What does Bernie Sanders do? What does Elizabeth Warren do? They don't produce anything. They're not engineers. They don't run a business. All they do is sit on their, in Washington and try to dictate what everybody else can do. So that's why Elon Musk, although he is who he is, he still supports oil and nuclear because he understands how the world works, and he seems like he likes America more and the average person more than the average politician does. So they're wrong about what they did with the American energy. They're wrong what they did with Russia. Listen, I'm just going to say it. I think it's a massive mistake to cut oil and gas from Russia. If anything, the prices are probably going up because of that. Where are we getting the oil from? We're not making it. We're not buying it. Of course the prices are going to go up. And here's the reason that I would still buy it from Russia. Either you have to go 100% or 0%, in my opinion. I don't want to start a full-blown war with Russia, but what's going on right now? We're cutting oil, but now we want it from Saudi Arabia. We're cutting oil, but now we need it from Venezuela. We're cutting oil, but Germany's not cutting oil. Oh, Germany's not cutting. How the hell are we going to, cripple Putin when Germany's giving them hundreds of millions of dollars? This is the sloppiest, most pathetic sanctions rollout I've ever seen in my life. It's only hurting us. It's only hurting the American people, the Ukrainian people, the Russian people. Zelensky's a total actor, producer, puppet who's trying to gout us into a war. He's a bigger war hawk. Zelensky, the fraud, is a bigger war hawk than Joe Biden is. He's a bigger war hawk than Kamala Harris is. I don't like Joe Biden, but Joe Biden is less of a war hawk than Zelensky. Zelensky's a fraud. Zelensky's a puppet. Zelensky's a little weasel who's trying to get us into a war. Even Biden's telling him no. Even the NATO's telling him no. And he just keeps trying to push us, and everybody's gushing over this complete fraud. I don't support him. I think it was a massive mistake what we're doing. And, I don't think they really had a long-term plan, unless their long-term plan was just crippling our country, losing more business to China, and getting all of our allies on a world scale to disrespect us. I mean, nobody even wants to take a call. I'm not saying nobody, but our own allies don't even want to take a call with Joe Biden. That's mainstream reports. And here's the thing. America, I love our country, but we can't be the moral high ground of the world. It's fake. It's a fake liberal thing that they're brainwashing people to act like we're so perfect. In World War II, when we fought Germany, we worked with Joseph Stalin, okay? Did we have the moral high ground then? Did we say, oh, we don't want to work with Joseph Stalin because he's killing millions of people? Guess what? Churchill, FDR, none of them gave a shit. They worked with Stalin anyway. Stalin killed more people than Hitler. That's on record. We still worked with them. So regardless of what they taught you in history, we didn't have the moral high ground in World War II because we worked with a bigger killer than Hitler. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's for you to decide. It's a complex issue. What do you do in a war? But this new idea that we're going to sanction Russia because they're doing something. Are we going to sanction Saudi Arabia because they're beheading people and throwing people off buildings sometimes? And I'm not saying that's happening all the time. A lot of what people learn about Saudi Arabia is overhyped. Yes, it is like more Sharia law than anywhere else. But at the same time, it's like, what are we going to do then? We're not going to work with Saudi Arabia. We're not going to work with Russia, China. It's all bullshit, folks. I'm sorry. We still get millions of products from China. Germany's still getting gas from Russia. We still work with Saudi Arabia. We've invaded Yemen. We've invaded Libya. We've invaded Syria. We've invaded Afghanistan. We've invaded Iraq. We are not innocent. We've invaded more countries than Russia has in the last 20 years. And it's the liberal stab you in the back that's trying to convince everybody that we have to tank our whole economy and be poor for Putin because the only way to fight the Kremlin is to be poor and let Joe Biden mismanage energy. We have to pick something. Either we're moral or we're not. At this point, we're not moral. I think we should be more moral, but you can't cut off Russia, us lose out hundreds of thousands of dollars due to inflation over the whole course of the country. We're losing trillions in inflation, but, and then go run to Venezuela. Oh, Venezuela's perfect. Saudi Arabia's perfect. Israel's perfect. Britain's perfect. Nobody's perfect, especially after how they treated their citizens with COVID-19. So, this is the major problem with America. It's the major problem in the Democratic Party. They completely lack it. It's a big problem in the Republican Party, and this is the change that the people want to see. A lot of progressives are starting to realize that the right is actually their ally when it comes to anti-war stuff. We need to focus on America. We're getting worse. Our cities are getting worse. Our country's getting worse. Crime is going up in the last couple years. We need to focus on ourselves. We are not the moral beacon of the world anymore, especially after that whole COVID authoritarian regime. We're kicking black people out of Barclays Stadium because they won't get a vaccine. Oh, yeah, we really changed since the 60s. No, you have Democrats, even though the mayor's black, they have crazy policies where Kyrie Irving could sit in the stadium, but he's not allowed to play. He could sit there, but he can't play. I mean, does that make any sense? We're not the moral high ground of the world. We are a degenerate, disgusting country at this point. And I'm not saying that with any sort of pride. I love America, but this idea that we're going to go bankrupt and destroy the petrodollar and, ruin our economy and send everybody's 401ks going in the wrong direction because we're so much better than Russia when we're working with Saudi Arabia, Get real. It's all a freaking lie, folks. I'm just going to be honest. If everybody was cutting off Russia completely, I'd say we're doing something, but we're not. You have our greatest allies funneling hundreds of millions of dollars to them while they're fighting Ukraine, and they're convincing you on Instagram to send them like $10 from your money in order to fund some sort of probably corrupt organization like UNICEF that's probably going to give a very small amount. And I'm not saying for sure that UNICEF is corrupt, but I'm not giving them my money. Good luck if you do, but I'm not. The last thing I'm going to do is give UNICEF my money so they could give it to, who in Ukraine's even getting that? I don't know. I mean, good luck. I hope it helps, and I hope they resettle refugees and stuff. But overall, it's such a half-assed fake war. It's the same thing during COVID. When Trump said he was like fighting China, here was my original thought, and I'm not blaming Trump. I'm just saying, I hope you're lying and you're not fighting China, because if you try to fight China, we're going to lose. We're getting millions of products from China all the time. We're still getting products from China. Our economies are now merged at the hip, and also I'm being forced to wear a Chinese mask on my face in order to get on an airplane. So if we're fighting a real war with China, we're going to lose because our own politicians are forcing us to put a Chinese mask on our face in order to fly or go around in this country. So we better hope they're lying, and they are lying, because there is no war going on. Yeah, there's a real war in Ukraine and Russia, and people are fighting each other and people are dying. But as far as this geopolitical war, it's like this half-assed mishmash of a few sanctions, this and that. But the crucial, critical stuff is still going through, because Germany's going to starve if they don't take Russian gas. We're going to starve ourselves eventually. Maybe that's what they want, but we're going to starve. We got to get gas from somewhere, and oil. You can't just use windmills. I mean, people need power. I'm all for clean energy and green energy, but it's got to be really green. If you're freaking killing Africans in a lithium mine, how clean is your energy? If you need oil and gas to, to fuel some of the charging stations, I don't know how it happens through electricity, etc. But, there's going to be some power. I mean, you don't just, it's not solar. Solar's pretty good, but as far as electric cars, it's not like it comes from the sun. You got to plug it in somewhere. Where does all that electricity? I mean, we're going to need something's going to have to power it. If we get rid of nuclear and we get rid of gas and coal, I mean, eventually we're going to starve too. So, I think the sanctions are biting us in the ass. I think we never should have stopped accepting gas from Russia. It makes absolutely no sense. Either everybody needs to stop doing it and really choke them out, or nobody needs to stop doing it. This half-assed approach, I'm not an analyst that can really tell you who's winning or losing the war on the ground. I'm trying. I know somebody at Fox News that's literally there. I'm trying to get him on my show so he can explain better what's going on the ground, because people are really dying. People are really fighting. But I'm talking about geopolitically with China, Russia, America. The big wigs are still making what they have to make. And how are we going to cut out Russia but not cut out China? But China's working with Russia. We're not going to cut out China because we can't afford to cut out China. Major corporations will never cut out China. They're trying to really starve Russia just like they're trying to starve America. Oh, you're really against authoritarianism? You're really against invasions? Oh, you're really against corruption? Yeah, are you going to stop working with China? Oh, you're not? They can't afford to. It doesn't even make sense, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to stay around for a few more minutes, but that's my take. As always, I think it's crazy that they have gotten left-wing people in America to support a far-right extremist organization that is banned from posting symbolism on Facebook, and even mainstream media is admitting those are an ally in defending Ukraine. I think it's insane that our greatest allies are so dependent on Germany, like Trump warned them that they would be, that we're half in, half out in this phony war. We're defending Ukraine, but we won't send airplanes. We're defending Ukraine, but we won't do a no-fly zone. We're defending Ukraine, but we won't send our military. Yeah, we're not really doing shit. Zelensky knows it too. That's why he's crying. It's a total virtue signal war. Want to know what the war is? This is pretty much what we're doing for Ukraine. Hey, we don't really want to get in a war with Russia because we're afraid of them, so we're just going to get Elton John to post a Ukraine flag. It's like, if we really wanted to fight Russia, we'd be fighting Russia. I'm sorry. I'm not saying this with any sort of pride because it's embarrassing for America, but American leaders don't want the smoke. It's all a big show, just like it was with COVID. They're doing everything they can to get everyone's support. For what? What is everybody's support on Instagram going to do when Germany's giving hundreds of millions of dollars to Russia? How is that going to... They don't think anything through. It's the same as defunding the police. Like, it sounds good. Yeah, I support Ukraine. Sure. Yeah, I have a yellow shirt on. I support you. What does me matter? I stand with Ukraine. It doesn't mean anything. People are, oh, why don't you stand with Ukraine? You want me to stand up? What does that mean? Oh, I stand with Ukraine. I'm standing in the air. Like, if I really stood with Ukraine, I'd go fight their war with them. I'm not going to say I stand with Ukraine on Instagram. I'm not standing for crap if I don't go over there and fight their war. So what's the point of posting about it? So, I just think that it's just another thing that's being misled. I think the only way that this is going to end is when Ukraine stops lying and the Western press stops lying to people, acting like we're winning when we're not, and strike a deal. We're not doing NATO with them, so we're not sending any military. It sounds like we're like scared, honestly. I'm not saying, it doesn't sound to me like, oh yeah, it's like this will end when Zelensky admits defeat and, backs up, and NATO admits we're not going to kowtow to Russia or anything, but at the same time, we're going to admit that we did this. I think that's the only way this ends, because I think Russia, it seems like, is winning the ground war, and even economically, I think they're getting hurt hard, we're getting hurt hard, but I don't think anybody wins this, Their citizens are going to get hurt. They could literally starve Germany if they wanted to. So I don't know. Like, this only ends when Zelensky stops doing his little action production show or studio, actor producer show and says, hey, okay, let's make a deal. There is no winning with Elton John, Ukraine posts. That's my opinion, but let's see what you guys think. I'm going to read some. Someone said, no, you're wrong. NATO is going to be involved. It's just a matter of time. You could think that, but once again, if you Google all this stuff I'm saying, I want you to look it up. Ready? NATO and Ukraine, it's not happening right now. Zelensky says that Ukraine's not going to be part of NATO. NATO says that Ukraine's not going to be part of it. Biden won't send a no-fly zone. They're admitting that won't happen. Maybe you're right. Anything could change, but I honestly think that America's kind of fronting. I think we're acting like, I agree with you. If we were really tough, we'd be like, they are part of NATO. We are going to, we're not really defending them. We're sending them like, Instagram models and TikTokers while they're asking for like real military stuff. And let me just be clear. I don't want a massive war. I'm just saying, like, we have weapons. Russia has weapons. If a real war wanted to break out, it would. But what's happening, I think, from what I've seen, is Russia's winning the ground war. Maybe not the economic war, but Russia's winning the ground war, and America and NATO are not doing anything about it. I mean, I think that they think that they're going to win this war through TikTokers or something. I'm not trying to be rude or sarcastic, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that we're trying to win the ground war. Someone said 2 Fox journalists were killed today. I heard that, and it's true. I know Trey Yingst. I actually like Trey a lot. He works for Fox. His cameraman was killed. The war on the ground is real. When I said the war wasn't real, I wasn't talking about the ground war. I meant like the economic war. I get that they're really battling each other, but pulling out certain things, letting China do it, pulling out certain deals, but letting some deals go through. I guess the point I was trying to make more concisely is, at this point, Europe relies on Russia in some ways. America relies on China in some ways. So there's only so much they could do. They could talk tough and they could fake and funk it. But at the end of the day, there's some things that we just can't afford to right now break apart. We've sold out to globalism over the last 30 years. We don't make a lot of products in America. We can't afford. I mean, most of the stuff that we need for medical products, we can't get ourselves. So that's what I'm trying to say is we got to be really careful. As far as the ground war, it's real. And it sounds like to me that Russia is taking over. I'm not saying it's necessarily a good thing or not, but I think this idea that TikTokers are going to win the war for us, like, I think Zelensky and NATO needs to be more honest. I think they need to sit down with Putin and just like, it just reminds me of like a passive aggressive war. It's like, we're not going to give you everything you need to defend your country, but we're going to just do some things. It's like, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? Russia has weapons that could blow up half of Europe. Europe has weapons that could blow up Russia. Like, this is no joke. I'm not trying to scare people, but it's like they're not even using their biggest weapons. America's not using its weapons. What it seems like to me is Russia's slowly taking over Ukraine, and Ukraine is slowly losing, and the media is lying about it, and that's just what's happening. There is no massive scale war going on. It's like a slow, small one. I'm not saying it's not real. People are dying. People are getting killed. It's just, it's moving slowly, because if either country wanted to move it fastly, it would move too fast. So I think Russia's slowly moving in, America's slowly doing nothing and pretending like they're winning, and the people of Ukraine are suffering. Someone said, do I trust Zelensky? I don't trust any politician, really. No, I don't trust Zelensky. I don't trust Putin. I don't trust Biden. I don't trust NATO. I trust my own common sense and critical thinking, so I'll listen to everybody, and then I'll try to make my opinion off of what they're saying. But, to me, the reason I think that Ukraine and America are losing is because just look at the rhetoric. Ukraine's president's begging for more help. We won't give it to him. Poland's offering to give jets to Ukraine. We won't allow it. You can look at a TikToker saying, oh, Biden's so tough. Biden's literally telling Poland, no, we have more weapons, folks. We have tanks, missiles, the biggest jets in the world. We're not sending them. Russia has a lot of supersonic stuff that people don't even know about. They're not sending them. What's happening, it seems like, is a slow war. Russia's slowly winning the ground war. Ukraine is slowly losing. Zelensky's lying about it. The Western press doesn't want to admit it. And they're now making everybody suffer. I'm not trying to start a whole war. I don't have the power, thank God. But I'm just saying, like, if Russia's invading, it's like either you're going to stop them or you're not going to stop them. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but it's like, are you going to stop Russia or are you not going to stop Russia? You know what I'm saying? We're not stopping them. If we wanted to stop them, we would stop them. If they wanted to use more weapons, they would. But what seems like is happening is they're taking things that they want, whatever they want in Ukraine. And it seems like Ukraine is not capable of doing much with it. You get what I'm saying? I can't fully understand what's going on because I don't really trust that much. But I feel like what happened was Ukraine is next to Russia. Ukraine has a massive history with Russia, right? NATO said that they would never work with countries like Ukraine and they would never get that close. NATO pretty much lied. They started indirectly, I think, trying to ramp it up a little bit. Russia took Crimea. Things got a little weird. And it's like we're half in, half out. We want to use Ukraine, I think. I think we were trying to use Ukraine as like a puppet state and do our dirty work in Ukraine. And I think eventually Russia just said, you're not doing it. And then Russia made a massive military move. And I think the world was unprepared for it. I really do. I think Germany was unprepared, like Trump said. I think America was unprepared. And like everything the Biden administration does, they can't tell the truth about it. What leader would admit that they're weak? So instead, they just try to control the public perception of what's going on. So I think, overall, we were making sneaky little moves. Russia made a massive move. And now we're trying to sell the public on this idea that we're going to win. But, we're all losing with the prices. I'm not saying I don't know what the right decision is because I get as Europe, you don't want Russia taking over. You don't want a World War II situation. You don't want them expanding into Europe. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but I do think at this point, America's not really trying to stop them. We're getting hurt. It almost seems like a controlled demolition of the American, like gas sector, which to me, that seems more reasonable than even thinking otherwise. It's like, what are they really doing besides screwing over gas in America like they were already trying to do? They're not trying to stop Russia. And I'm once again not saying that we should, because I don't think we should have a no-fly zone, but it's like there's two options when it comes to the Russian invasion. Either Russia gets backed up, or maybe three options. Russia gets backed up by Ukraine or our allies. Russia takes over and does whatever they want in Ukraine, or they come to some sort of agreement and Russia leaves on their own free will. In my opinion, this idea that we're going to stop Russia, it's not happening. It would have happened already. So we clearly, and our allies are clearly, it doesn't seem like we want to fully help. A lot of Democrats and Republicans want that, but it doesn't seem like the people running the show want that because they know that they probably can't win that. So what's happening is either Russia's going to take over whatever they want in Ukraine. I don't know what they want. The press lies so much. Do they want the whole country? Do they just want a few things or military bases? Do they want to expand further? I have no idea. I wouldn't put it past Putin to do anything. So I'm not even saying that, I'm just saying we're not trying to really stop them. So either he's going to leave with a deal that him and Zelensky makes, or he's going to take over the whole country and all the Ukrainians have to suffer. But I truly think that Zelensky is trying to put on this show that he's some sort of heroic hero and, we're winning the war. They're losing. They don't have the help from NATO that they want. They don't have the help from America that they want. They don't have the military to go against Russia, and nobody seems to want to help them with any sort of real firepower. So either Zelensky's going to strike a deal and Russia's going to go home, or Russia's just going to sweep the country. I mean, at this point, that's what it seems like to me. I'm not there. I can't guarantee that. This is just my analysis and thoughts of it. But I would love if they made a deal. You know, I hope Zelensky and Putin make a deal. I don't want my gas prices to go up. To be fair, I don't know. I don't want the dollar to collapse. I don't want war. I would like to travel the world and not have to think that everybody hates me everywhere because we're in this conflict with everybody. You know, the one good thing about globalism was this fact that now you could travel everywhere and people wouldn't throw you in an internment camp. You know, that was the one good part about globalism. It's like, yeah, it's probably long-term a bad idea, like we're finding out now. And Americans warned them for 20 years that this was a bad idea. And nobody listened. Paul Buchanan warned them. Ron Paul warned them. So many people warned America. They were called far-right extremists. And now everything that we all knew was going to happen is happening. And, you know, it's a weak spot for Germany, you know, Europe, etc. So we'll see. But I think the one good part about the last 20, 30 years was I could travel to China. I could travel to, you know, I didn't, but I'm just saying I could travel to Europe. And now I can't travel anywhere. If it's not a COVID vaccination, a PCR test, now I don't know if countries hate me now. It's like I'm American. Does Ukraine hate me? Does Russia hate me? Does Europe hate me? I have no idea. I'm not saying I'm afraid of it, but you know, the pros of globalism have been pretty much screwed over with the COVID restrictions, in my opinion. Now there's really no benefit to it. Like I need a PCR test and 3 freaking Pfizer shots in order to travel the world. I'll pass. You know, I can't go on a cruise. It's annoying. So someone said we don't get but a small portion of oil from Russia. Well, I was basically talking about Germany is getting a lot. So if we're working with NATO as like this cohesive unit, we're going to sanction, you know, we're going to sanction Russia. I get that we only get a little portion, but if our allies are getting a lot and they can't afford to get off, you know, this is like a war. This is what happens. It's not just a physical war, but an economic war. It's like, okay, yeah, you could hurt me, but I could make Germany starve. You know, you could hurt me, but I could ruin your thing. If Saudi Arabia works with me and China works with me, we could screw over your whole currency. So I think, you know, from what I'm seeing at least, I don't know Putin's side of the story because he's banned from everything now, and I haven't listened to him speak in weeks, so I don't know what he's saying. But this is like how I'm good at reading. You learn a lot by listening to people, listening to both sides and seeing what they're saying, listening to Biden, listening to Zelensky, listening to the Western press. To me, it's screaming weakness. I'm not saying that Putin's not also weak, but it's like, you know, I think they know that they're in a pickle. It's like they could make a big move on Russia, but there would be a huge cost, so they don't want to. So it seems like they're just half-assing it, in my opinion, you know, because I think we don't want the smoke with our allies. I'm like, yeah, you could do this, you know, you could hit a missile, you could do a no-fly zone, but then I could use a supersonic missile. This is what happens when 2 superpowers start beefing with each other. It's like, do you want to take it there? Because I'll take it there. And in my perspective, Putin took a huge step to physical war, and the West didn't really do anything physical. It's all economic, which is, you know, not is damaging, but I'm just saying it's like as much as we could hurt Russia economically, it feels like they could hurt us economically as well. Like I feel like we're not fighting Yemen, we're not fighting Syria, we're not fighting Afghanistan. These are little countries that can't do crap to us. You know, it's messed up, but America's been a big bully in the world for a while. So if we get in this crisis with Afghanistan or Pakistan, I don't think they have leverage on us. You know, most of the time Iran as well, maybe with their ally alliances in Russia and China, they have some leverage, but Russia has more leverage than anybody we've beefed with in the last 20 years. So I think for the first time, America's kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I want to fully do that. You know, that's what I'm taking from it, at least. Someone said at least Ukraine's president can rock a black leather, get up, sing and dance. All we got is hairy leg, blank, word salad, dude. I want that shirt now. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have an actor and a puppet, at least, you know, being able to sing and dance. Someone said, why was it being blocked from YouTube and kicked off YouTube? Given that I'm not sure what you're asking. Someone said Russia's going to hurt us dearly. They're one of the largest supplier of fertilizers in the world. That's the type of stuff I'm saying. I appreciate you guys coming with more facts that I don't have on me, but you know, the conflict with Russia, like this idea that us losing money and gas prices going up, like this proves we're winning. No, not really. The stock market going down over the last 2 weeks, I don't think this proves we're winning. I don't want to lose, by the way. I'm not, I hope this isn't being misconstrued like, oh, Anomaly wants to lose the war or something. Like, no. I'm just saying, I think Ukraine and Russia need to come to a deal. I think America and NATO need to come to a deal with Putin. They don't want to do that because they've brainwashed everybody into thinking that they're winning. I'm sorry, we're not winning. They just want to, they think they could just lie all the time. It's insane. It's like, if we just lie on social media, get all the celebrities to lie, all the TikTokers to lie, censor the Ukraine on Fire documentary, ban Russia television, then we'll win. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's not how physical war works, and it's not how economic war works. You can't lie yourself out of this one. You lied yourself through COVID. You lied yourself through the 2020 election. You lied in 2016 to 2019. You gained a lot of support lying, but I don't see them being able to propaganda and lie their way out of this one. I'm not saying that they're the good guys and we're the bad guys. I love America. I'm just saying, I think that they need to be honest and say, listen, Russia's hurting us, we're hurting Russia. Russia's hurting Ukraine. The sanctions are hurting Russia. Russia's hurting Germany and NATO a little bit and the whole world, and we're hurting them. Everybody's hurting from this. That's why you make a compromise. Hey, let's come to the table and stop all these people from getting hurt over this. That's what we need to do, but we're run by psychopaths who can't admit that they're not doing well. It's like the media being better. How could CNN be better? Well, they'd have to admit first that they suck, and okay, we got to get better, self-awareness, self-accountability. Let's try to make a better news network that's more honest. Do you think that CNN wants to do that? No, so they just keep spiraling downhill and sabotaging everybody and lying through their teeth. Their whole thing is just nonsense, Same with America and NATO at this point. I like America and NATO, but it's like we have to admit that, we're hurting Russia kinda, but they're hurting us a lot. We're hurting their people a lot, they're hurting our people a lot. People all over the world are suffering. But NATO, America, no self-awareness, no self-accountability. If enough TikTokers say that we're fighting Putin and we ban him on social media, they're desperate. Just go to the table, Zelensky, NATO, go to the table with Putin, admit you screwed up a little bit, admit he screwed up, and figure it out. Because if they let this keep going, it doesn't seem like Putin's leaving Ukraine. Why would he leave Ukraine? We're not even helping them barely. We're just doing economic stuff. Physically, we're providing very little to Ukraine. If you could do a scale 1 to 100 of what America and NATO could do for Ukraine, they're doing less than 5% of what they could do. And Zelensky knows it. Zelensky's crying, give me a no-fly zone, give me more weapons and planes. We're not doing that. So what's the point? If we really wanted to stop Putin, we'd give him weapons. That's why a lot of Democrats are like, no-fly zone, Kinzinger, no-fly zone. That's how you defeat Putin physically, is with all that stuff. Or at least you start a war where he either wins or you win. It's not worth it. But I'm just saying, it's like, we're not stopping them in Ukraine with less than 5% of our firepower. So how long are we going to drag this out? I don't know. Let's see. Russia has like $1 a gallon, LOL. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell what's going on in Russia. I don't really have much information on it. Someone said, what does the Ukraine do for the United States? I mean, they're getting us in trouble right now, but it's not like they did it. We've been meddling. I mean, look at the Biden stuff. Look at all this stuff. Ukraine, since the 2014 revolution, it seems like, has been one of the biggest. Look up, there's, I think, Panama Papers, like foundation donors. There's all these lists, and Ukraine is very high on the list. So, when it comes to the world oligarchs, when it comes to America and our allies, it seemed like Ukraine, after the revolution, they went from being more pro-Russia to more pro-NATO and more pro-West. So through that revolution, either directly or indirectly, it seems like America got the puppet, government that they wanted. And this is well documented in other parts of the world. America tries to control certain people's governments, directly or indirectly, funding rebels, funding this. It's not a secret. I'm not making up some sort of conspiracy theory. You could find it in Middle Eastern countries, South America countries. America loves to get involved and try to get the leader that they want there. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I mean, personally, I think it's probably not a good idea long term, but, I understand the world's complex, so I don't want to micromanage it, but this is what America does. So if you want to understand the Russian Russia-Ukraine thing, I'm not trying to oversimplify it because it goes back even longer than this, but there was a revolution in, I think, 2014, and the leader who rose out of that over the next few years was way more pro-West and way more pro-America and way more pro-NATO than the average president, and Putin didn't like that, and we did like that. So I think that we started doing a lot, and Putin started getting upset. That's why probably, I don't know why he took Crimea, or, I don't know the full context on that, but this has been, our biggest rival. It would be equivalent of if a country next to China, we were working with their government a little bit and taking shots at China, and China was taking shots at us, not literally shots, but metaphorically. That's what's been going on with Ukraine. So what do they do for us? I don't know what they do for us exactly, but as far as Ukraine, we send them weapons. We have a huge connection to them. It was our little puppet state for a couple years where the West, NATO, America could apparently get more out of them than anything else, And it's similar to in Libya, when Gaddafi was there, he didn't do whatever they said, so they wanted to get rid of him. When Saddam Hussein was there, he didn't do whatever the West said, so they want to get rid of him. In Syria, Syria didn't do what the West said, so we wanted to go at them. And then Syria ended up working with Iran, I believe, and Russia. So I can't say I have the fullest grasp on it, and I understand it's more complex than even I'm explaining, but in certain countries, we always want leverage, just like other, Russia and China would want a government to work with them. If you're China, would you want every government in the Middle East to be friendly with the United States, or would you want every government in the Middle East to be friendly with you? So there's these conflicts all over the world, and Ukraine was one of those places, and it just so happened to be right next to our, greatest adversary of Russia. So this has been going on for years in smaller ways, and I guess at a certain point, Russia decided for whatever reason that enough was enough. To me, I'm not saying that this was planned, because I think it was, obviously they had to have some sort of plan to invade, but I just find it suspicious that it's COVID ends the next day, this happens. It almost seems like the world is a stage, right? And this is the next stage of what they're doing. It's all right, let's choke out the gas prices, get people to, greener energy, even though it's not really greener, make an excuse for the prices rising. And in America, I'm not saying that they purposely did this, but I find it suspicious. All right, without getting upset with me, let's go to 2020, because 2020, with Donald Trump in office, they printed, I don't know, it's hard to tell, $6 trillion. I read some reports, $9 trillion. I don't know how much money they printed, but in 2020 at the time, it was more printed in the United States than ever printed in modern history. So under Donald Trump, just follow me. Not his fault completely, but he was the president. He got mad at Thomas Massie. He wanted to do it. Him, Pelosi, McConnell, whatever. They all printed $6 trillion, okay? Let's not even talk about Joe Biden. He's a disaster, but let's just cover this. When you print that much money, when you shut the country down, it was Democrats, it was Republicans, Trump was in on it too. Was it all his fault? No. Was he fighting it as hard as you think? Absolutely not. He was a part of 80% of it. So anyway, when you print that much money, something's going to happen. You can't not have inflation with that much economic damage. Closing down 100,000 restaurants, funneling more money to big tech, giving $18 billion to big pharma, doing universal basic income where everybody gets $1,600. I mean, this was communist. Before Joe Biden even got there, communism and socialism came to this country via the COVID-19 response. Whether you think it's justified or not, that's what happened. So now, Joe Biden wins the election and he's in office. So even though it's Donald Trump's fault, Pelosi's fault, McConnell's fault for all that inflation, and everybody in Congress and Senate besides Thomas Massie, he's the only one with blood not on his hands. You never get to say that happened, because now Joe Biden's in office and all the Republicans blame Joe Biden and act like he started this when he didn't. Okay, but now he starts taking away energy, right? He takes away the pipelines. He takes away, some of our foreign deals, etc. He starts moving to clean energy. California starts closing down nuclear plants. Okay, so Biden starts sabotaging our economy. Now you have the inflation that Donald Trump created that is now getting pinned on Biden. You now have the inflation that Biden is making worse that he deserves, he deserves the blame for. So you're combining the Trump administration and the Biden administration, which did a controlled demolition on the American economy. When you do all the economic damage that Trump and Biden and Pelosi and McConnell did in 2020 and 2021, this was all going to happen anyway. I don't know how else to tell people, but they use COVID as a smokescreen to really usher in socialism and communism, universal basic income, lockdowns, social distancing. I mean, we turned into like a communist Chinese style Black Mirror Orwellian slave state, and apparently everybody thought that was okay or something. Okay, so now all of this inflation from Trump, from Biden making it worse, it's all going to hit in the next couple years anyway, because how the hell can you print over 10, 20 trillion? I don't even know how much money they printed. More money in the last 2 years than ever. How could you print all that money and do all the economic damage they did? There's now hiring signs anywhere. Nobody wants to work because they got universal basic income. Our country already turned socialist. So now you have all of this going on. And then the day that it ends, and it's probably going to set in anyway, you have the Russia conflict. Oh, how convenient. Now Biden can point it to Putin. So what they're doing in this country and in the world, I'm not saying it's planned, but they're just handing off the baton. Trump imploded the economy. He hands off the baton to Biden. Biden implodes the economy further. He hands off the baton to Putin. Putin, Biden, our allies, etc., implode the world economy, and now magically, it's not COVID's fault, it's not the 2020's fault or 2021, it's all Vladimir Putin. I just find it very suspicious that nobody ever, you get what I'm saying? It's all of them. They're all doing it. Putin's messing up our economy, Trump messed up our economy, Biden messed up our economy, but if you say that Trump did it, Trump supporters get mad. If you say that Biden did it, Biden supporters get mad. If you say that it was Putin, it's a big show. It's a big show where they're all destroying our economy. They pass off the baton as soon as it's about to set in, and then no one can ever identify that most of it's coming because of 2020 and 2021. Yes, this is not helping. Yes, gas prices are inflated because of the war, but what are the chances of all of this happening? If Trump was in office, would it be better? Yes. Would energy prices be better? Yes. Would gas be handled better? Yes. Trump would have done a better aspect on almost everything than Joe Biden. But could Trump have stopped inflation? Absolutely not. Could he have lowered it? Sure. Could he have stopped? No. He printed way too much money in 2020. He went full-blown communist. Nobody realized. Everybody gets mad when I say it. People watch degenerates like Styx Hexenhammer 666, the satanic weirdo who moved to Europe and cries, his Trump support and cries when people talk about printing money, fake libertarian, pretending like money printing doesn't matter now or something. And nobody realizes that this is all happened. So I'm not I'm not blaming Trump, and it's not like, it's all of them. They all did it. Imploded the economy. It's the Spider-Man meme? It's him. It's all of them. They're all doing it. It's almost like either this is the most spontaneous coincidence ever, or it's all planned. It's all this way of like, how can we run people in circles? How can we pass off the baton? How can we never admit that, we had a part in it? And how can we just shift the blame? And they're all doing it. So, I think all of these 2020, 2021, and the Putin thing, they're all like hitting at once. And I don't know what that means. They're talking about crypto, blah, blah, blah. I'm not an economic currency expert or anything. I can't really tell you what's going on. Someone said Soros. What about Soros? George Soros is George Soros. Look up what he does. He loves to, spend money, get involved in politics, etc. When I say that, he's Google the Open Society Foundation and what he's involved in. He likes to be a part of, world and American politics and push his, political agenda, like a lot of donors do, except he's one of the wealthier ones. When I say it's Trump, Biden, and Putin, I don't mean to simplify it. There's hundreds of thousands of people involved. Sheldon Adelson gives money to Republicans. Soros gives money to Democrats. Kolomoisky gave money to Zelensky. I'm not trying to oversimplify it like the whole world's problems are Putin, Trump, and Biden. I'm just saying Democrats, Republicans, of course, people who donate to them are part of, not only part of the funding of their rise, but usually when you donate, you get some sort of say in what goes on. I don't think people give billions of dollars to Trump and Biden to just give them money. I think a lot of people, especially the wealthy, give them money to, get leverage, like lobbying. So yeah, I'm not trying to oversimplify. Like it's all Trump and Biden's fault. I'm just saying Democrats, Republicans, backers, it's like a big circus. It's a big show. But what do you see on social media? And this is how they got people trapped, right? You got the average, what I would call a normie. They're doing this. I'll just play this clip again because it's relevant. This is, no offense, but this is like the lowest form of activism. Like, what am I doing today? Like, what does this do? I'm not saying you can't post what you like, but it's the same thing as the black square. Like, did they post a black square when they thought to post a black square? Because, I wrote my senior thesis when I was in high school. I wrote it on prison sentencing and how I believe that they were unfair, etc. No one told me to write that. It was my own free will being like, I believe in, racist, or not I believe in, but I'm against racist policies and what I considered, injustice due to like marijuana incarceration. That's just what I wrote my senior thesis on. I wrote that because I wanted to. There was no politician that made me write that. With these black squares, I mean, people didn't wake up one day and watch a Martin Luther King documentary and say, oh, I want to help black people today. They were programmed by the media. Well, this George Floyd thing happened and this is what we're doing. The Ukraine thing, this is what we're doing. We're all in together. This is what we're doing. So I'm not trying to be rude, but it's the lowest level form of activism. It's called groupthink, just be a follower, do what everyone else does. It's a viral trend. That's doing nothing, right? So you have half the country, if not more, doing nothing. They're literally just posting a flag of a country they didn't even think about 3 months ago because they were told to, and they have no idea what's going on. No idea of anything I talked about in this live stream. No idea what's going on with Russia or Ukraine. It's just like Russia bad, Ukraine good, post flag. So you got over half the population doing that. Completely useless, completely pointless. They're out of the equation of mattering in any sort of like actual meaningful change for, the better. No offense, it's just true. And then you have, people who counter that narrative. But, I would say in the mix of the people countering that narrative, you have a lot of people that are watching people on Fox that aren't Tucker Carlson, Mark Levin. They're just as bad as the liberals on this one. Trish Regan, she had some crazy comment. Trish Regan, she was like, we need to sanction India. What the hell is wrong with you? She's a psychopath. Why would you sanction India? Should we sanction Germany? Let's sanction Germany. Germany's getting gas from Russia. Yeah, let's just implode our country even more. Why would we sanction India? Because India is doing business with Russia. We still do business with Russia. We still do trade with China. You can't just sanction the whole world for not agreeing with you. Trish Reagan's a psychopath. People on the right are listening to them. So how many people on the right are getting brainwashed the same way the left are? And then you get through it. How many people would be willing to hear what I just said 5 minutes ago and say, yes, Biden is garbage. Yes, I would vote for Trump over Biden. I would still do it if I had to. He's not my first choice, but if he wins the nomination, unfortunately, I still think he's better than Biden. And that's not saying much. But at the same time, how many Trump supporters are willing to admit, yes, Biden made it worse. Yes, Putin made it worse. But also Donald Trump in 2020 imploded our economy. And with all of the money printing and shutdowns and, rearrangements of how we functioned in society, and the fact that instead of really making a point to educate people in 2021 about this, he ran around the country selling Pfizer and Moderna shots like a big pharma pawn, and embarrassed, in my opinion, ruined his whole legacy. But, he still did some good things for sure. But as far as like this leader that I look up to, I look at him like a circus clown, and I'm embarrassed for him that he used 2021. He could have educated people, told them about all this stuff, but instead he took no accountability and just sold vaccines for Pfizer and Moderna like a total con artist. But whatever. So the point I'm getting to is how many people are willing to be like, well, yeah, Biden screwed it up more, Putin screwed it up, but this idea that Republicans and Trump didn't blow it in 2020, like there's a very small amount of people that are willing to hear that. So it's all just a big show. People will fight with this person, counter that narrative, yell at each other. And to me, it looks like a race. Here, I'm going to hand off the baton to you. I can't prove that that's true. It's my opinion. It's my analysis. But I just find everything like, what are the chances of, first of all, when Trump lost the election, or when, he, whatever you want to say or whatever you can say about the election, what are the chances, like if he was in office, right? there would have been inflation. Would it have been as high? Probably not as high, but it was going to get high. It was going to get higher than ever. You can't just print all the, in COVID, communism, inflation was coming. But now, because Trump's not president, he'll never have to take any blame for what he did. And how convenient is that? What's even more convenient is he held this mysterious event that was a total failure that summoned all of his biggest supporters, all of his biggest activists, all of the biggest organizers in America, all of the people who should have been standing up for medical tyranny. Instead, they were standing up for the vaccine salesman. He summoned all these people to an event, and miraculously, all these people got set up and misled and confused and blamed for something they did or didn't do. And now you had the perfect narrative for Biden to start calling people with the feds, arresting people, saying there was an insurrection, putting a gate around the White House, ramping up censorship. I mean, maybe that was random. It definitely could have been, but to me, it's like, what a convenient narrative. You know what I'm saying? Oh, there's this virus that came around and, we have to shut the world down. Oh my goodness, we have a vaccine. We've had it for months. We've been working on it since January. Wow, how convenient is that? I mean, what a coincidence. I mean, I'm not saying it was planned because you're not allowed to say that. And I'm not even thinking that. I'm just saying, man, they're just the luckiest people in the world. It's like, man, it just so happened that we had to do this and we had to do this. Oh, inflation's coming and let's pass the baton to Biden. You did it. Oh, there's going to be people that are going to fight medical tyranny. Oh, let's tell them to go to this event that they're all going to get in trouble for. And now the biggest activists on the right wing can't do protests anymore because they're all in trouble with the feds and they have to lay low for a year. Oh, what an amazing, coincidence that just played right into the hands of the next administration. And then inflation's about to hit and we're free from COVID, policy for the first time ever. And the next day there's this energy crisis that sends the prices up. Oh, what a convenient. Now I don't take, Trump doesn't take credit for it. Biden, it's Putin's fault. Let's just blame Putin for it. Oh, what do you know? We wanted to get people on solar energy and clean energy. Oh, now it's the perfect. It's like, what a crazy set of coincidences. This is just the most spontaneous, random thing. Authoritarianism rises, censorship rises. They get record high donations when there's race riots in the country that just miraculously happen right at the perfect time when they're losing in the polls. Trump loses the election. The election never ends. It lasts till January. Trump tells people Mike Pence is going to do something he's never going to do. People believe it. They show up to this event. They get in trouble. Now they can't protest COVID, and we're stuck with restrictions for a year. And all of the biggest, activists are like in trouble. What a coincidence. And then, Biden does all this stuff for a year. His polling goes down. A war starts. He takes no blame for it. The prices go up. Pete Buttigieg is doing exactly what he said he'd do with clean cars 2 years ago or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying it's planned because I don't even think so, but I don't know. I mean, at a certain point, I think that certain things were planned. I think their COVID reaction was planned. I don't know if they knew when a virus was going to come, but they had a plan for it. I mean, it's not even a theory. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but I don't really give a shit today or any day, to be honest. But, Event 201 is still on YouTube. You can watch it for yourself. They had a plan. All the bigwigs, John Hopkins, Bill and Melinda Gates, World Economic Forum, they had a full-blown plan. If a coronavirus hits the world, here's what we're going to do. Shut down travel, make sure no misinformation spreads, ramp up censorship, and within 6 months, miraculously, exactly what they said happened. And what did they do? They did exactly what they planned to do in Event 201 because it was basically a blueprint of how to respond to a coronavirus pandemic. In hindsight, Johns Hopkins University, the same ones who put on Event 201, are now admitting that it didn't actually help at all, if any, barely. So is this just the craziest coincidence ever? Or, is there an orchestrated response to this type of stuff? You see the cyber attack in Israel. I mean, go look at, and I'm not saying that this was purposeful because I mean, cyber attacks are real, whether you believe it or not, like at some point they're going to happen, eventually the hackers get smarter than the coders and there could be there's been cyber attacks in the country. It's not even like a controversial thing to say, but go look at Cyber Polygon. What is the Cyber Polygon conference or Digital Polygon? I forget. It's Klaus Schwab and the World Economics Forums. live discussion about what to do if there's some sort of cyber attack. And what do they do in that conference? They plan how they would respond to a cyber attack. So if you want to know how they would respond to a massive cyber attack, just watch the Cyber or Digital Polygon Conference, whatever it's called, and they'll tell you how they'll respond. And if God forbid there ever is one, they'll probably respond in that exact way. So, a lot of things that they plan on doing, they just say at places like Davos, and they tell people publicly. And then you say that they're going to do it, and people look at you like you got 1,000 heads. This is a book that 99.9% of the population won't even read. I've gotten pretty far through. I know what he thinks because I read his book. I'll show you a picture that I don't know that I've shown because now I actually have my camera on the right way, and I have like a 4K camera that I bought. There's a picture in here of what Klaus Schwab considers the biggest threat to the world, and he actually makes a diagram. So I'm going to try to find the diagram to show you, because I don't need to think about what these people think. And they'll say, oh, Anomaly's a conspiracy theorist. And I'm not saying that he's necessarily wrong about everything, but this idea that I'm not allowed to disagree with someone else, what's the point of voting if I'm not allowed to disagree? I must agree with Trump. I must agree with Biden. I mean, just slap a Ukraine flag on my head and you know what I'm saying? Stop me from thinking then. I'm sorry, but I don't live in that type of world where I'm not allowed to disagree with somebody in the world. That's not how it works. Here it is. This is his idea of what's going on, right? This is in the COVID-19, the Great Reset. Sorry if it's a little fuzzy, but if you could see the middle, it says climate action failure. So he believes in the middle of all these crises, this is on page 25 for anybody who has the book, I'll just read it. He thinks climate action failure is the biggest crisis in the world. Extreme weather, natural disasters, biodiversity loss. I completely disagree with that. I'm sorry. I think that, weather is a problem. It's always going to be a problem. I think that, shifting climates is definitely something to pay attention to. I think, energy is appropriate to really be smart about. I do think that there are ways to do better energy in this world that we are not innovating. So I agree on a lot of things, but this idea that climate change failure is the #1 problem in the world, I disagree with that completely. And in fact, as much as they're censoring, just like with COVID, if you disagree with that, censor. I mean, I could take up articles and show you CNN, mainstream articles. All of their predictions, many of their predictions have been wrong. Scientists that Al Gore was quoting, wrong. Said the ice was going to be gone, wrong. National Glacier Park's going to have no ice by 2020, wrong. They had signs there, wrong. Ice. It's like the idea that these people have, and you'll find something very interesting. I'm not trying to push religion on people because I don't really care what you think at this moment, but if you don't believe in God, you believe in something else, right? What do people who believe in God think? Oh, God created the universe, right? That's what I think. Okay. Some people think you're stupid for thinking of God. What do you believe in? Well, I believe in the Big Bang and the dinosaurs. But here's the thing. Both situations are crazy. It's crazy that I'm able to talk to you right now. It's crazy that I exist. It's crazy that you exist. Either theory is crazy. It's not like the God theory is more crazy than the dinosaur theory. They both kind of make no sense if you think about it. Your idea is there's a Big Bang. A Big Bang from what? Something had to start from somewhere. Nothing was there, and then something came, right? What came first, the chicken or the egg? If God was there, God had to exist to create everything. If the Big Bang happened, it came from nothing. So either God made the Big Bang happen or it never happened. It's a lot. You get what I'm saying? It's like neither theory. It's not like these, atheists are like, oh, you make no sense. The Big Bang doesn't make any more sense than God. Like something had to create from nothing. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's one of these philosophical discussions that is impossible to solve because it's like, I don't know. Did the chicken come first or did the egg come first? Which, it's the same thing of like God and the universe and the Big Bang. They're both hard to really quantify. So with that being said, if you don't believe in God, you start to think that you are God or someone's God. Fauci's God. Humans are God. It's like you don't understand, even in the spiritual world, we do not have control over this planet. Yes, we can do certain things. Yes, we can manage it better. We should clean the oceans. But at the end of the day, if this was an equation, the sun is the variable that we can't control. Whether you believe that God created the sun or whether you believe that Neil deGrasse Tyson created the sun, I'm just kidding, but the sun just miraculously appeared one day, it's still the sun. So this idea that you don't understand, even in a perfect world, we do everything perfect. We change the climate, carbon's down. the sun could at any time alter. We don't control the sun. And guess what? We don't control the oceans. And as far as I know, we don't control the volcanoes unless we're living in the Truman Show and somebody's got a button. My belief is that we don't control the weather, but maybe you think that someone does or something. I don't know what people are thinking, but anyway, it's like, it's such a narcissistic view to think that we have the power to do all this stuff, And on one hand, there's people saying we have too many people. People need to die and people need to stop having babies because there's too many. On another hand, you have billionaires like Elon Musk, who are very smart, saying the opposite. They're saying we're actually going to have a crisis because, he's like, people are not having enough kids. So in 30 years, we're going to have a population decrease problem. So this is a debated topic. And it's the same thing with all this stuff. It's like, how much is nature? How much is nurture? How much can we do? And how much do we have no control over? There's no way that this is settled science. That's why a lot of their predictions have been false, because they're trying to play God. They're trying to say that we have an idea of what happens next. You do? I mean, they can make hurricanes now. They do have the technology, but in general, it's like we can do a lot of this stuff, but also there are always going to be curveballs from the sun, curveballs from the weather. There's going to be something that happens that we didn't think was going to happen, right? That's why you could plan ahead. You can do stuff. You can get to the right thing. But this idea, they've been saying for decades now that there's going to be this huge climate catastrophe in 2020. It's never happened to this point. Is it saying that it will never? No, but the point I'm getting to on a long rant is you have people controlling the world who are literally rearranging the whole globe for this topic that they consider the most important, while they're censoring people who disagree with them. There are very smart scientists who can have a debate with these people. Joe Rogan's had both of them on, and the one that disagrees with them explains himself thoroughly. The one who agrees with the Klaus Schwab narrative says, oh, I don't want to debate. I don't have to debate. It's like, it's become the COVID situation. These smug scientists, they think they know everything in the world and they can't be questioned, and they literally know nothing. You look at the virologist from Rutgers. I'm not trying to be rude, but the dude does not take care of himself. So you understand everything about physics and viruses, but you can't even, take care of yourself and, show love to the body that God gave you. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but I don't trust you when it comes to science and physics when you can't even physically and scientifically take care of yourself. What are you doing? You probably, are a glutton mentally as well. And, just, I get awards from Rutgers. I'm so smart. It's like, that's why these people were so wrong about everything in COVID, because they think that they're God. Well, if we do a study and we say that it's a 3% death rate, that's what it is. It was never a 3% death rate. They lied to your face, and the World Health Organization was wrong. Why? Because that's not how science works. They told you that the vaccine would be 100% effective. It wasn't. Do you know why? Because science doesn't work when some D-bag liberal sits in his office and says, this is how it works. That's not science. The real experiment is not the little dinky Pfizer experiment you do and cover up inconvenient data. The real experiment, and I'm not saying that they always do, but the CDC is trying to say, we don't want to release this data because it doesn't tell the story we want it to tell. It's like, okay, so what are you going to do? Wait until it says what you wanted? That's not science. Science is releasing the data. If people are saying something you don't want them to say off it, maybe the data isn't what you said it was, and that seems to be a thing. So they act like their idea of what it is how science works. Oh, if we say a vaccine works 100%, then it works. No, that's not how it works. You give it to 100 million people, and then you see if it works well. If 10 million people who got the virus, contracted the virus, then yeah, it's not a traditional vaccine that actually works like a normal vaccine does. It's a gene therapy, synthetic mRNA, trial run that apparently allegedly protects you from hospitalization according to them, according to the same people who were wrong about the other 60 things. So I pray that they're right about that, because, I hope people are healthy and stuff, and it helps people. But in general, it's like, it's hard to really act like these people are unquestionable, whether it be in climate science or whether it be in vaccine science. The same thing happens with climate. When you're taking into accountability the ocean, the sun, this complex thing, if you go to NASA websites and you look up Antarctica from like mainstream NASA.gov reports, 2017, 18, around that time, they admit that their greatest, satellites can't even measure all the snowfall. You could find a graphic on NASA. It literally says there's parts that are melting, there's parts that are actually gaining ice. So it's not like everything in the world's melting all the time. That's not true. That's the picture they're trying to paint. But they're admitting in NASA, we can't even measure the middle of this continent because there's so much snowfall that our satellites can't even tell. So how the hell can you understand what's really going on when your best satellites can't even pick it all up? Same with Google, the Jacob Shavin Glacier. For 3 years, it was growing, and they said it was going to melt. And they're like, why is the fastest thinning glacier growing? It's like, because you're wrong about how it works. And I hope it does grow. I mean, there's a chance that it shrinks, etc. But this idea that they can't be questioned and this type of stuff, but that's the world they're trying to build. And I'm telling you, and a lot of people who watch this stream know, the way that they get away with it is they hide their agenda behind things that they say are not allowed to be discussed or debated. Whether it be race, they say you can't talk about it. Religion, they don't want you to talk about certain angles of it. Gender orientation, LGBT flags, BLM fists, whatever they could hide their agenda, their political socio agenda behind, they will use it because it's like a shield. If I just say, hey, here's why I think what you said is wrong, but I'm going to allow you to say why I'm wrong. That's a real discussion, right? But if you say, this is settled science, you can't question it, all of the scientists agree, now I'm hindered. They rip my tongue out metaphorically. I'm not allowed to have the same reach that they're allowed to have. And that's what they're doing. It doesn't mean they're right. Science is not a popularity contest. If no scientists on the planet, you had 1 million scientists, none of them could find DNA. Watson and Crick found DNA. Guess what? It's not all the scientists agree that we couldn't found it. They found it. They win. It was 0.0000. The greatest discoveries in science have been when 0.0001% of the scientific community, if that, found something that 99.999% of the scientific community couldn't find. That's what made every great discovery. No great scientist in history goes along with the consensus. No great architect goes along with the consensus. No great engineer goes along with the consensus, whether it be the Wright brothers, Watson and Crick. Nobody great in scientific history just does what everyone else does. It's literally the opposite. That's not at all how science works. It's the innovative people who discover something new that are considered the revolutionaries. So this idea is a communist or authoritarian fascist idea of what it means to do science. This idea that you're not allowed to question government scientists or corporate scientists or Pfizer scientists, it's literally the opposite of science. You can't do innovation. That's why America used to be more innovative than Europe. Why did we invent so many things and Europe didn't? Because we had the freedom of speech. And when you have the freedom of speech and the freedom of science, you do a lot more. And when you have less taxes, you have more money. In Europe, for a long time, they stalled because they were more socialist than we were. They didn't have the same freedom we had, and they didn't innovate. That's why we innovated for so long. This idea that you can't question Pfizer or Neil deGrasse fed Bison Tyson, as I call him, it's a total communist, authoritarian, fascist idea that it has been settled. Every great inventor, every great scientist, every great discoverer did something different. They went against 99% of the scientific community and they reigned victorious. And then all these dweebs and idiots who were brainwashed losers, then in 50 years, they do exactly what the other ones did and they act like they had a part of it when it wasn't. That's why, Kary Mullis got banished, Watson and Crick have been, tarnished in their name, Luc Montagnier got tarnished. These are all real scientists who did things that all these other dweebs and weasels could never do. So, this idea that you can't question the science of the planet and it's such a pseudo-intellectual, fake, fraudulent idea, and they are using it to push forward their political agenda, just like they're using BLM. There's nothing wrong with saying Black Lives Matter, but when you can't say that other people's lives matter, it gets a little weird. Why can't you say that everyone's life matters? Why is that a bad thing? Because they literally don't think everyone's life matters. They don't want you to say it because they don't believe it. They're trying to hurt you. I'm not saying the organization is, but the people behind it are, whether they know it or not. Okay, so now you have this organization that they could push forward billions of dollars. I mean, you could research the founders were puppeted by a man that was, with the last name Man, that is into Marxism. Like, it's not a racial organization. It's a political, social organization that's hiding behind black people. And the puppet master of the black women that are, the founders is not even black. He's Jewish. So, it's not like they got this idea from themselves. They learned it from a guy who was into Marxism and communism. That's just on record. I mean, I could show you, videos of how he talked about using black anger, to fuel his political agenda. It's on video. So they use these things, whether it be that, this, that, and that's what they're driving their agenda with. I mean, I know a lot of people here know that. I'm not trying to get repetitive, but that's why we try to counter it on all fronts. We're never pushing misinformation or anti-science. We're pushing information and science so people can continue to innovate. And before I end this live stream, in order for America to get back to what it was, a lot of things have to happen, but one of the things that we have to preserve and we have to really hone on to is freedom of speech. We can't let it go. Not to big tech. We need to have competition. Listen, Rumble, not perfect, but I'm glad they exist. Getter, not perfect. I'm glad they exist. Gab, nobody's perfect, but they're doing a better job, in my opinion, than the other ones. I'm super glad Gab exists because they actually stand up for the Constitution. But we have to keep the competitive spirit. In this book, they write about how they think competition is bad and they want government intervention. We can't let that happen because the only reason America's been so free and so prosperous and so innovative over the last 100 years is because we had the freedom of speech to do real science, to critique, to invent and create. When we lose that freedom, when we give more taxes to the government so they can go bomb children in foreign countries and then blame, another country when they invade 1/8 of the countries they invade, our empire's not going to last that long. But I have faith in our people. We still have that culture alive. Don't let them kill it. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America and God bless the world. Real quick, I just want to show you two things. First of all is this ticker I just made, or I'm going to try to post it. So godblesshats.com, we had like 100 pink hats. They sold out. We had 9 black hats. They sold out. White hats may sell out forever. I have new colors coming in. We have a green Dream Rare hat, but I'm not fronting when I say that they sell out. Pink is already sold out, folks. We had them 2 weeks ago, completely sold out. The white, we have like maybe 100 something left. When they sell out, we may never be able to get white hats again. I hope we do, but the market is bad. They're made in the United States. They're great hats. Check them out. And also I have Dream Rare Podcast by Anomaly because everybody listens to podcasts now. I created a podcast to do interviews, to reach out to people, to have conversations, and also to post secret stuff in my best podcast on Dream Rare Podcast. Check it out. It's on all podcasting apps. We do one show, one interview, one show, one interview. So far, I think there's 6 of them on there. Check them out if you'd like. I think it's pretty good, and I'm excited about that, doing interviews, etc. Thank you guys so much. As always, I wanted to say too, if you're on Facebook right now, so I want to be clear because I know I have a subscriber thing on Facebook. I'm going to post this Patreon, but I'm speaking directly to Facebook users. If you're a subscriber on Facebook, 2 things. First of all, I've had my stuff taken away so many times that I've gotten out of the loop of what I was doing because I do a live stream every month for people, but they took it away and I wasn't able to contact people. It's super frustrating, but now they've also restructured the supporter hub on Facebook. So I'm going to keep letting it roll if anybody wants to subscribe there. But I will do a live stream this month, and also I'm going to switch it from that and just do some secret posts on there. So thank you to everybody doing that on Facebook. Apparently they're going to give me $20 for every sign up. I mean, they're probably going to cheat me out of money eventually like they always do, but it is what it is. Like, anything really helps. So if you want to do that, if it's easier on Facebook, I appreciate it. There is some sort of bonus. And also I apologize for not delivering on certain things, many of which I couldn't because they just make it hard sometimes, but I will do a live stream this month. And Patreon is a place that I'm trying to hub because it's a little more secure. Maybe not the most secure, but I will do secret podcasts every month there, try to have some bonus footage material on there and build around that. I don't need it. I'm just saying it's all optional. The Dreamer podcast is free, but I'm working my ass off. I got a lot of presentations, a lot of videos. I hired somebody to get more help. So I'm trying to keep upgrading quality, better live streams, better cameras, better everything, and really move forward. And, either way, watching, sharing, it means the world. It helps a lot. There is ad revenue on Facebook and YouTube. So if you don't do anything, just watch the videos. And if you like it, share it with a friend. That's more than enough. I'm grateful. And once again, I'm just putting these up for advertising. Right now, this might change, but if you notice, I'm probably one of the bigger and only people that doesn't have advertisers. I could probably make more selling you some shitty products that I don't believe in. I could probably make more if, I worked with other companies and stuff. I just don't feel like it. So if you like the fact that my videos don't have a bunch of me selling you crappy products that I would never use myself, patreon.com/raretalk, God bless hats. It all helps a little bit, and I would love to stay ad-free in that sense. I don't feel like selling other people's products, but eventually one day I might have to if I really like the product a lot and it makes sense. But for now, I would prefer to just crush it on Patreon and crush it on Facebook and YouTube and not even have to think twice about it. But either way, that's why I run these ads. I just want to let you know, because some people are like, oh my God, Anomaly's begging or this. I'm like, dude, every influencer my size, they're selling you this, they're selling you that. They sell you something like 5 minutes into the live stream, and I'm not knocking it. It's like, get your money, you know what I'm saying? But I'm like one of the only ones who doesn't do that. So instead of plugging other people's ads, I just plug my ad every time. It doesn't mean that I need it, I don't want it and beg for it. I'm just saying, it's like, it makes a difference. Even if 1 or 2 people does it every day, it makes a huge difference. And if I can build my store to the point where I'm making a lot of money, if they demonetize me on instant stuff, I'll laugh at that. It'll be such a small number. I'll be like, I don't even care. But right now, they're trying to strong arm me on social media sites because I think they know, just like with our country, it's like prices go up, you have less power. Your income's less and houses cost more. It's all this little game to take power away from us. So I'm just playing my part. Appreciate y'all. God bless you. Have a beautiful day. And once again, if you want a white hat and you never got one, I'm not joking. I would tell you the truth. We might not be able to get any. My guy is telling me we can't get them and we got to look for a different color. So we're getting new blue beanies in as well. Check that out, because the American made in the USA suppliers are so low. When I get them, sometimes I get 9 black hats. He goes, you want 18 blue hats or 27? I'm like, only 27? That's all we can get? Yeah, we'll get them. Whatever, since there's only that many. So that's how it works now, because I guess nobody makes anything in America anymore. So when I get it, it's only a small amount. Appreciate y'all. Have a beautiful day. And thank you so much for watching and sharing on Facebook, YouTube, etc. It means the world. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. I had fun. Hopefully you did too. And I will be back.